Dear DIYer, this video is for you. I'm your girl Shequita from Crown Me Quita, and today we're making the DIY tapestry hoodie. So stay tuned for step-by-step instructions. Of course, you will need a woven blanket. We got this one from Amazon, and Bria made her collage on an app called Collageable, and we literally customized it through Amazon. You will also need fabric scissors, push pins, your choice of thread. We're using navy blue, your sewing machine, and of course, a sweatshirt that you already have to serve as a template to cut out your pattern pieces. Let's get into this DIY. Before we start cutting out pattern pieces, let me start by saying, be mindful of how you place your sweatshirt that you're using as a template, because what I don't want to do is cut through her face. So I want to make sure I lie my sweatshirt that I'm using as a template in a place on the blanket that's going to give me the most of the collage. It's going to give me the most face value, okay? After you figured out your placement, which you probably going to have to play around with, lay your sweatshirt flat and then fold the arms and the hood in like so. This is how it should look once you're done folding. When you get ready to cut, remember to add a 1-inch seam allowance. So I'm not gonna cut directly on the edge like this. I'm gonna cut like this. So we got the front cut out, and we're literally gonna take the piece that we cut out for the front, flip it over, and now we're gonna use that to cut out our back piece. So after you've cut the front and back, you should end with pieces like this. Few pointers. Cut your pattern pieces out on a smooth surface. My scissors keep getting caught in the carpet, and I don't like that. Second, when you cut the bottom, make sure you just go ahead and include the tassel, okay? You see how I did down here? I did not do that for the front piece, so I'm gonna have to go back and sew the tassel on the bottom of the front piece. So where I can, in order to save time, I'm gonna leave the tassel attached. Okay, let's get into these sleeves. So when you cut sleeves, you should cut it on the fold. And the best way I can explain what that means is by showing you an actual sleeve that's already done. You see this sleeve, all right? The only seam that it has is underneath the arm. So that's what I mean when I say cut it on the fold. It's gonna be, this whole sleeve is gonna be one pattern piece. So you're gonna cut that on the fold. That means I'm gonna take my fabric, fold it in half, lie it flat, so this is the fold, and now I'm going to take my sleeve, arrange it properly and lie it on the fold and cut around it, remembering to include a 1-inch seam allowance.
So now we are cutting the hood.
So we got one side of our hood. I'm going to flip this over and use this as the pattern piece to cut the other side.
And save all your tassels, because you're going to need them.
So for the hoodie, I'm cutting it so that the tassels are already attached.
Okay guys, so these are all the pieces that we cut out. We got the front, the back, the arms, and the hoods, and then we have to sew on the tassels, fringes.
So as Bria said, we are done making our pattern pieces, and now we are ready to pin and sew. Make note of this. When you're pinning things, pin it inside out, so that when you sew it and flip it the right way, the seams will be on the inside, okay? So we're starting with the hood. So this is the correct side. And I'm gonna put those together so that what is on the outside is the wrong side. The faces kiss each other. Okay, so we're gonna pin here and then we're gonna move over to the sewing machine and sew it. I'm gonna move on to the bodice. Again, the faces need to kiss, meaning the correct side needs to be on the inside, meaning it needs to be inside out. The only thing that I'm gonna pin right now is the top of the shoulders. So we are done pinning our hood, if you can see the pins, and now we're gonna come to the sewing machine and do a single stitch along the edge, creating a seam. I left room for a 1/2 inch seam allowance. When you're sewing, begin with a sew forward and then do a back stitch. So what this does is it just reinforces it so that the thread doesn't begin to unwind. Remember to stop, take your pins out. When you are sewing a curved edge, so you know a hood curves like this, it is very important to move slow so that you're slowly turning the fabric. So if you can tell, I'm kind of like turning my fabric as I go. When you get to the end, don't sew through the tassels, okay? And then remember to back stitch again, because again, the back stitch is gonna reinforce the seam so it doesn't start to come apart over time from normal wear and tear. Once you're done, snip, snip. You turn it out, the right side out, and you have a hood. We're gonna move on to the bodice. So we've already pinned it. The only thing we're gonna sew right now is the shoulders.
It's perfect.
Remember your seam allowance. And then gas that thing.
Pedal to the middle.
Pedal to the middle. All right, so now we have a hood and we've sewn our shoulders together. Okay, so now we're gonna attach our sleeves and our hood. We're gonna pin those together. We are pinning wrong side to wrong side. So you start wrong side of the bodice to wrong side of the hood. And you're going to pin this along that here. Back. I'm gonna start like right here, go all the way around, and then stop, end next to where I started. So if I could show you an example, you see how the hood starts like this, and it goes all the way around? Yeah. Okay, so we got the hood on, period.
It's a poncho right now.
It's a poncho right now, like Bria said.
That hood was complicated.
Yeah, the hood was complicated. You have to pin the hood to the inside of the collar, okay? So, pin the hood to the inside of the collar. I was like, okay, so now we're about to pin the sleeves. This is how it looks. We're opening it, laying it flat, and we're going to pin it like that. So we're literally taking the sleeve as a whole pattern, and we're going to pin it to the inside curve of the sleeves. The correct side should be kissing when you pin, okay? And the wrong side should be on the outside. All right, so we have one sleeve added to the bodice, and I just wanted to show you the pattern. This is what the pattern looks like, but this will be what it looks like after you pin it and sew it to the bodice. So essentially, the way we're pinning it, ooh, I'm not doing this any justice. That's how it's going to end up. We have sewn the tassels on the edges where we needed to, i.e. the sleeves and the front bodice, using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. So now we are ready to take the last step, and that is to sew the sleeves closed and the side of the bodice closed, and that's going to be one continuous seam. So literally, I'm going to sew from the wrist all the way to the armpit, down the side. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side, and that's literally gonna be the last step. Once you're done, just take scissors and snip off any excess strings hanging. One piece of advice that I would give you would be to square off everything. Instead of tapering the bottom of the bodice in like a sweatshirt does, actually square it off and square off the sleeves as well instead of tapering them in, because this has no stretch. So likely your wrist won't be able to fit in the arms if you don't square it off. I also made Nabria a skirt so that she would have a full birthday outfit. However, I did not record a step-by-step process for the skirt. I ordered 2 blankets to make sure we had enough fabric, so I was able to make a second hoodie. This hoodie is slightly different from the first because it is oversized and it does not have tassels. So Nabria will have options, but I wore this one on her birthday, and I'll be sure to include photos of how I styled it.